What's up, everyone? Matt back for another real review, and I know I'm a day later than promised, but honestly, it's because I had a lot to think about when coming to the second film, a part of this double feature set of reviews, and that is none other than Oppenheimer, the new Christopher Nolan flick starring Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh, then just a host of other actors. This is Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, the list goes on and on and on because this is such an expansive cast. And there's a lot of hype going into this movie. People are saying it may be Nolan's best. He's made it known that there's no CGI in this film whatsoever. So going into this, I was very curious on to how you pull off a film like this with no CGI effect shots, all practically done. And it was just a major point of interest to me to check this out. So I was excited. I went with my buddy Kuzo, and we saw it in IMAX. So that was its own experience. And I have to say, this film is beautifully shot. I did have some personal issues with the sound quality. It seems like there are times where they were in the elements and the audio seemed off, and there were other times where the music was totally overpowering the dialogue, but I thought maybe, just maybe, that's because I was seeing it in IMAX, so I pushed that off to the side. But overall, I'm ready to talk about this because I actually did need the extra day to think about how I felt in regards to this film, because honestly, for me, I by no means thought this was Christopher Nolan's best. It was, if I'm being honest, this may be third or fourth on his list of movies for me. It's not better than Inception. It's not better than The Dark Knight. And I personally like Tenet, but I don't know if I put Tenet above this. It is a movie where you do feel the runtime, and that's rough because it is a 3-hour movie on the dot counting credits. So if you're going to do this Barbenheimer double feature, please take into account you are going to be spending at least 6 hours in the theater. That's 6 hours. You got to plan out half a day essentially just to see these two films if you are doing this double feature. So please do keep that in mind. Back to the film though. The only other real issue I had with this was the second act personally dragged for me. And that's when we start getting into the developing of the atomic bomb and the Trinity test. And the third act is when it picks right back up. And I was just engaged. And that was the most excited mentally and engaged I was when it came to the film. There is some surprising things. Something I didn't personally care for is the fact that Florence Pugh, the great artist that she is, was essentially, and yes, this is a historical feature, so this is, for all intents and purposes, is true. She was essentially a sexual object in this film. Half of her screen time, she is either nude or having sex with Cillian Murphy. Other than that, those are my only real complaints with the film. And that's why I did them up top, because Cillian Murphy will be nominated for Best Actor. If I'm being honest, there's only two people right now I could consider in the Best Actor category. And one of them can also be nominated as Best Supporting Actor for this film. But that won't happen because he's going to end up splitting his votes between two categories in that way. So we're not going to do that. Or the Academy is probably not going to do that. And that's Matt Damon, who does a great job as Leslie Groves, who was the military man above Oppenheimer who recruited him to work on the Manhattan Project. So there's that. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of it, this story is told in two perspectives. It's between Oppenheimer's perspective and Louis Strauss. Louis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr., his first major big role since, not Iron Man, Doolittle. So it was nice to see him back on the big screen for that. He's probably going to get nominated. There's there is not a ton of awards films right now. If I'm going to say films nominated for Best Picture based off of the releases we get this year, I'm not for. I said the other day in my Barbie review, we're going to include Oppenheimer, Air, and Across the Spider-Verse. Those are the only 4 films at this point in time I would put in the Best Picture category. Maybe an outside dark horse chance for Creed 3, but I don't think that's likely. So, those are the only ones that have really popped out and seemed important and special this year. And it's one of those weird situations to where you're excited. This has such an amazing cast. And at certain points, it does feel like it becomes a who's who because you're like, I recognize this person, I recognize this voice, and so on and so forth. So that can be a positive or a negative, depending on how you want to look at it. There was times I felt myself wondering, what actor are we seeing next, and being less engaged with the film. But this is something that I do feel like you should see in a premium format type theater, whether that be IMAX, XD, whatever Regal's version of IMAX and XD is for the non IMAX theaters that they have, but premium format theaters. So RPX, that's what it is, Regal RPX. So I would check it out in those premium formats. I'm lucky enough to where this is in 70 millimeter in Cleveland, Ohio, over at Valley View. So I at some point will probably check this out again and just see how I feel about it more. But if I'm going to give this film a rating, it was really hard because there's so much I like, but I had to think about how much those negatives really impacted my viewing experience, because I know it sounds like I'm being really negative when I'm not. I loved the fact that this was all done practically. There was parts where I was mesmerized, whether that be when we do get to see the atomic bomb go off, because I was very curious how the hell they were going to recreate all of the explosions and whatnot in a practical way for the cast to react to. That was really interesting. But it's getting to the point for me when it comes to certain films, and I think Oppenheimer is one of them, I care more about the behind the scenes and the making of than I do about the actual film itself. So with that being, but at the same time, that directly correlates to how I feel about the film. So with that being said, I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5. It is still a completely well-made movie from a technical aspect. Christopher Nolan's direction is fantastic. There's not a bad performance in this, which I know I said about Barbie, and they're both true. I will say this again, and I can't say it enough. Be sure to drink your black coffee and have your cigarette before you go to the club, because that's how you're going to probably have the best viewing experience with your day. So see Oppenheimer before you go to Barbie, because one kind of brings you down while the other is going to lift you back up. So be sure to check that out if you are doing that double feature. And yeah, but if you haven't already, please do watch my review for Barbie. That dropped the other day. Again, I'm sorry that this was a day later than promised. It's just one of those things of I needed time to process and think, and I still didn't really get to process entirely. Also, this upcoming week, I'm going to have my Haunted Mansion review. I think the embargo is either up now or it is up early next week, so be sure to check that out whenever that does drop. And also, check out Watt Gaming. That's our sister channel. That's where all of our Twitch streams go for VOD, so you can watch it whenever you want. You don't have to always watch us live. And our Twitch is twitch.tv/WattRealEnt, just like it's spelled right there. Twitch.tv/WattRealEnt. Be sure to check those out. And until next time, folks, remember to like, subscribe, and follow everything we're doing over here at Watt Real Entertainment. I'm Matt. This was another Real Review, and we'll see you next time.